Hey there, welcome back to Feast and Farm Cooks. My name is Rachel Ballard, and this is the channel where our goal is always to help you eat less junk. And that means cooking from scratch. So here's how we're going to make the most delicious vegetable beef soup I think ever. My family loves this recipe, and in the colder winter months, it's really simple to put this in the crock pot even if you like that. Make it ahead and put a big batch in your refrigerator and snack on it all week long. We really love this one. So here's what you're gonna need to put it together. I've got, supposed to be a pound of either chuck roast or stew meat. And I've done actually a chuck roast that I cut up here, but you can do either one. Stew meat's a little bit more affordable, so it's up to you which one you'd like to use. I've got about a half, 3/4 of a white onion that I've diced back here, a couple of tablespoons of vegetable or olive oil, and some water, salt and pepper, and then I'll show you the rest of the ingredients for this in a little bit when we get there. But for now, we're gonna get started with our cast iron Dutch oven, whatever you want to use. Big pot is all you really need, heating up over medium-high heat back here in the back. I'm going to add my vegetable oil and let that start to heat up, and then I'm going to move my camera so you can see what's happening in the pot. Be back in just a second. Okay, so into my very loved pot, as you can tell by the inside of it, I have the oil heating up, and we're going to add our stew meat in. We want to sear this off because adding that layer flavor, getting some golden brown bits on this is going to add really nice flavor. So a little bit of salt and pepper. Do not be afraid to salt it. It can handle it. So salt, a little pepper goes in. You have to season things at the beginning. If you wait and season them at the end, which certainly we will have to probably adjust it, it just tastes salty. So try to salt as you go. So we're going to get this in. This is a little bit more than a pound of meat because my family, they're like meat hounds and they just want extra meat. So that's the joy of making it yourself. You can add as much meat as you want or as little as you want. Totally up to you. So I'm gonna let this chuck roast sit in here and get brown on all sides. I probably ought to go ahead and just toss in my onions with it. It's perfectly fine. And I'll let that all kind of cook together for a few seconds. Once the meat is all nice and brown on all sides, we'll add some water and we're gonna bring it to a simmer. Cook the meat a little bit so that it gets a little soft, and then I'll show you the next steps. Be back here in just a second. Can you see me? Our meat has started to cook down with the onions and everything's kind of softening. So what we're gonna do next is add our water, and this is 4 cups of water. Just enough to cover the top layer of the meat. You don't really need it, buried in there, but you do need enough to cover it. Just gonna kind of move things around, make sure everybody's even in here. Then I'm gonna put the lid on this, and I'm going to simmer this meat for 1 hour. That just kind of helps to soften it up a little bit. And after that 1 hour, I will be back to show you what to put in next, and you'll be almost done. Be back in just a little bit. Our meat has simmered for about an hour, and it's just a little more tender than it was before, and steamy. Now let me show you what you're gonna need to kind of round out your soup and finish it up. I've got about 12 to 14 ounce bag of frozen mixed vegetables. You can use any type you like. Mine has carrots, peas, green beans, that sort of thing. I have a medium potato that I've peeled and cut into about 1.5 inch cubes. I have a 14 ounce can of diced tomatoes with the juice. You can use any kind of diced tomato you like. These are the fire roasted version, but whatever suits you. 1.5 cups of chopped cabbage. My mama always said, if you're not putting the cabbage in this, just don't bother to make it because the flavor just really rounds out the soup. So don't skip it if you possibly can. I have a can of V8 juice here. I really like the richness of the V8 juice here as opposed to just a can of tomato juice, but you can just use a can of tomato juice if you have that. And then salt and pepper. This is so easy because all we do is dump it all in. So in goes our vegetables, and we'll do our cabbage next. This is gonna wilt down, so don't worry about it being, looking like a lot to start out. So that'll go in, our tomatoes will go in, our V8 juice. I mean, this is like a no-brainer here. So I'll put that in, I'm gonna stir it all together, and then I'm going to give it a little bit of extra salt and pepper. You wanna remember that when you put salt into, especially a liquid like this, that it takes a few minutes to dissolve. So if you put salt in, and you stir it around, and then you immediately taste it, it may not be as salty as it's going to be when that salt fully dissolves. So you might get a surprise if you're not careful and end up making it too salty. So put a little in, and then taste it, give it 5 or 10 minutes and then come and taste it. Then see if it needs more and adjust it slowly. That way you won't oversalt it. Okay, so I'm gonna let this simmer again just until everything softens in and kind of the flavors meld together, another 25, maybe 30 minutes, and I'll be back to dish this up a big bowl in a second. So see you then. Our soup is simmered for about an additional 30 minutes, and the potatoes have softened and the cabbage has kind of gotten softened, and I think it's time to ladle some of this out. So with my great big ladle, we will make sure and get us some out. Look at that. This has cozy warm blanket and a book written all over it. It's just so comforting, and you know, it's just that really classic winter food. You can find the full written recipe over on the Feast and Farm website, and I will also leave you a link in the description box so that you can get your own cast iron Dutch oven if you don't already have one. I'll leave you my recommendations for my favorites. Now, I'm just gonna get a little dab off here. Thanks so much for being here. I also love to serve these with my homemade yeast rolls, and you can watch that video right here. Thanks so much for being here. Hope you have a lovely, wonderful day filled with cozy, delicious food. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.